Well, she and I were just talking about how unusual it is for someone to be honest about their feelings, especially their fears. And we got onto this topic because I told her that I was really happy to see her this morning. And she said something like, "Of course I would come this morning." And then I asked her if she could, instead of saying something like, "Of course I was going to come this morning," if she could maybe ask me if I was afraid she wouldn't come. And then that would give me a chance to explain that yes, I was afraid she wouldn't come, and explain why I was afraid. And actually, I was a little afraid that she would think that I was afraid she wouldn't come because I didn't trust her or believe in her, but actually it had almost nothing to do with her, and it had everything to do with my past experiences. But we didn't talk about that, at least not yet anyhow. So, but what she said was it's hard to ask someone how they feel, and it's hard. How did you say it? When I said
That people feel offended when I ask them about how grown-ups, adults, they feel offended when I ask them how they feel, and I keep avoiding this subject, this term of feeling. How do you feel?
with adults.
Yes, with adults.
And then we started talking about children. But first I'll say that the reason I was afraid she wouldn't come this morning, and I was so happy to see her when she did come, is that in the past, many times I've really needed to see someone, or I've depended on someone and then they didn't come, or I felt abandoned by someone, and so far that hasn't happened with Orshi, but I'm still afraid of it. I'll always be afraid of it, even if she always comes to every meeting. I'll always be afraid there's going to be one day when she says, like, I can't work for you anymore, something. So even if she works for me for 5 years, I'll still be afraid of that, probably, unless I get like 20,000 volunteers, or even 2 volunteers or employees that can replace her. But right now she's pretty irreplaceable, let's say. So I feel overly dependent on her. Now I'm admitting a vulnerability, and she's laughing. But anyhow, so then we started talking about kids, and she said with kids she can talk about her feelings and say what she's afraid of, and she asked her kids how they feel. And I told her that that's the way we can change a whole generation. And I thought about the example of, I think it was in Germany where I really saw this, is that in the schools they were teaching kids about recycling. And the kids learned a lot more about recycling than their parents knew. So the kids would go home and teach their parents about recycling. And now those kids are now adults with their own kids, so they're teaching their kids. But we can use the school system to really revolutionize society if the people that control the school systems want to do that. So if we could get this idea of talking about feelings and emotional honesty into the schools, then the kids could teach their parents a little bit, although it's easier to teach about recycling than about feelings because it's not as threatening. Talk about recycling, it doesn't really threaten that many deeply held beliefs and stuff. But I also remember that someone told me that I think it was black kids in America who speak sort of like the black street talk with their friends, but they speak more like a formal English with adults, so they speak kind of 2 languages. So if we can teach kids to talk about their feelings among themselves and with certain people who speak that language, it's just like a foreign language, really. Like if you speak Japanese, obviously you'll just speak Japanese to people who understand Japanese and speak Japanese. And then you can speak whatever other language to the other people. But at least you'll have more options. What do you think about all that?
Sorry, I was a bit busy wiping this white stain off my... I think you can probably succeed with this, because I told you about Dula, what miracles could I actually do with him. And I see this
tell the people in the video more about him.
About Dula. Dula is a small boy. He's 3 right now. And when he came to my nursery school, he was only 2 years old, and I think maybe 5 or 5 months old. And he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, he couldn't couldn't control his bladder. And in 9 months, I managed to, just by hugging him and just by putting him on my lap, and just by kissing him and hugging him, I managed to make him walk, talk, and he has no problems with his bladder control. So that's why I keep him, Yula, as my miracle kid, because I have never had such enormous success with a child so far in 7 years since I've been teaching. So I think that if I could succeed this much with Yula, we could probably change more, because we don't need as much miracle as I needed with Yula. I think it would be easy for children. It is easy for children to talk about their feelings. It's more complicated with adults, with grown-ups.
Okay, that's all for this video. Bye.